5, 4, 3.
Welcome, everyone, and pull up a seat at the table. It is lunchtime in Rome. Tonight's episode 191 is entitled Childhood Essentials Part 3. As a child, did you get what it takes to fully function as an adult? This week at the table, we will continue to go over the assets any child needs to be set up to succeed as an adult. So pull up a seat at the table and join us. First-time listeners can subscribe on your favorite podcast app or watch us live or later at youtube.com/lunchtime in Rome. Visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com, and while there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. Make sure to follow us on all social media, and we would love for you to give us a 5-star review. Jay, what specifically is this podcast about?
Being alone is the worst. Good times aren't as good, and bad times are worse when you're all alone. Romans 12:15 says to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. That is how you keep people from being alone, and what this podcast is all about. We demonstrate that in the first 15 or so minutes of the podcast, and we talk about it for the rest. So while it may not be 12:15 in Rome, we're treating it like it is lunchtime in Rome.
I like it. We shared some energy there.
So, Chris, you were saying right off the mic here that you like a good nap.
Oh, man. Okay, so here's my quick story about arriving tonight, and I'm so glad I didn't. We're starting a little late tonight, and it's not totally on me, so that's great. I just feel like I was afraid it was going to be like I was ruining everybody's night.
You never ruin our night.
Oh,
you just make it late
nice.
sometimes.
Yeah, I do that. I do that. Well, so I had one of those days where late, which is a newer thing for me, but I had PT at 4:30 today after school. And so let me back up even before that. I've also had a day that is the same.
Back in 1976, I was born.
Ooh, Titusville. No.
Never heard of it.
Past couple weeks at school, my air has been broken, and you could think, well, it's February. Why do you need air conditioning? There are no windows in my room. I have like an internal room. I have no external walls, no outside windows. Got to have some airflow in this room. When my air breaks, it just gets stuffy no matter what time of year it is. So I'm moving around, teaching music. So I get sweaty. I get warmed up. The whole room, like it's a stuffy atmosphere. So that has been happening every day the past couple weeks. Today, we'll add physical therapy onto it, right? So I go through an hour of physical therapy, which I think I even mentioned last week on the podcast, has transitioned from, let's just loosen that rotator cuff and the muscles up,
right,
to actually like we're exerting some
much more aggressive
yes,
stuff.
Yeah. It's more in the line of like lifting weights, or at least doing some resistance training and that sort of thing. So that there's an hour of that.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm tired. I go home. It was my night to cook dinner. Quick dinner of spaghetti with seafood from Aldi. You ever get their frozen seafood mix?
Have not.
Love it. It's not it's frozen
at the beach.
It's not Woolies.
Right. It's not fresh, but it's a nice little mix of scallops and calamari and shrimp and clams. Great with some spaghetti. So I throw that together. Eat dinner, and I'm like, man, I am so whipped.
Yeah.
Like, if I can just like lay in bed and zone out for like, I had about 40 minutes was my reasonable amount of time before I needed to get up and get ready and get here. More than 40 minutes later, I have that moment of peaceful waking up, like, wow, I feel so rested. This is great. Glance at the clock, and I'm like, oh, right? Like, I don't know if I probably just slept through my alarm because I was exhausted at the end of the day. Whatever. I can't come here without cleaning myself up. I have the stuffy sauna classroom, PT workout, and seafood breath. And I'm like, I cannot just race. And I cannot just race out the door. So, long story short, I took like the quickest half shower of my life, brushed my teeth, ran out the door, and here I am, ready to do this amazing episode with you guys. And I'm so glad I didn't ruin the night. And that's my story.
Well, it's good to have you here, buddy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a grind my gears, what grinds my gears kind of moment this week.
It's from the Family Guy.
Right? So we had our our gas lines in our neighborhood all replaced. So they've been digging up our neighborhood.
It's been a few weeks.
The interior of my
it's a
car is
process.
well aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is muddy out there.
I've driven in
And-
nicer streets in Baghdad. I have not.
I'll tell you what. I was on Forbes Avenue today, and it's unbelievable. Anyway, but it's a whole process. So like the first crew comes in, they dig up the big stuff, and then they lay down like the big pipes that are on the street, and then another crew comes in, and then they put your lines in from the street to your house, and the gas company comes in and actually attaches that pipe to your meter on the outside, your housing. Well, when they do that on that day, they have to shut your gas off. Okay. And then when they hook it up, they have to turn your appliances back on. They have to like light the pilot light in your stove or your furnace or your water heater. And, well,
Now, let me just real
Yeah.
quick, just because insurance questions are always very exciting. Is that why?
I mean, that's a thrill to me. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Why do they have to do it? Like, is that a thing? They're like,
No,
no,
they
we need
don't.
to take. I thought maybe it was liability or
They
something.
don't need to do it, but
Like, as far as by do it, I mean relight the things in your house.
right.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't need to do it, but some people just might not know how to.
Okay. So
you
they
know?
offer that.
Right. And I figured, I was actually coming home with Maggie at the time. The guy is like walking up to my house and he said, "Hey, I'm about to turn your gas on. Do you need me to turn on your appliances?" And I was like, "Yes." Like I didn't want to have to do it. I was scrambling with Maggie. I was literally coming home and getting her out of the car.
Yeah.
So a few days go by, and I'm like, man, this water is like how you have the spot on the shower. You just turn it to the spot. You know it's going to be
Right.
within where you like it. The temperature wise, it was like I couldn't handle how hot it was. It was scalding hot, and I asked Amy.
New gas line.
No, I asked Amy. I was like, "Have you noticed the change in the temperature of the water?" And she's like, "Yes, it's extremely hot." I said, "You know what? I bet you any money that the guy that turned on the gas in the water heater turned it up all the way.
Yeah. Just like cranked it
Just
up.
cranked it up all the way." And sure enough, it was, and it kind of pissed me off a
Yeah.
little bit because one, on the label it says, "Warning."
Yeah.
It can
Yeah.
scald you, And he knew when he was here that we have a young kid.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah,
dude,
listen, we sound.
What do gas people know, anyways?
no,
Well,
but I
but
guarantee
no.
you they tell them to this is this tinfoil hat. You put it on. They tell them to turn it up because we'll have to owe more money because we're going to burn more gas. And it really does. I
That
remember
can't be.
Our friend Drew, he said a good way to save money is to turn down the heat on your water heater
Yeah.
so that to a temperature where you're comfortable with, you will notice a difference in your gas bill. And I guarantee that's why they turn it up.
That
and
sounds
they'll never
crazy when
say
I-
it. They'll
Right.
never it's one of those unwritten rules that like they will say like, "Oh no, we never tell anybody to do that." But secretly, like everybody's like, "Yeah, just pump it up." I guarantee it. I guarantee.
See,
It's
speaking
not
of-
written down anywhere in any rule book, but I guarantee you, it's what they do. Just saying.
Speaking of insurance, though, it sounds like such liability to do that. And
But-
we sound like a bunch of middle-aged homeowners, which we are, like complaining about this stuff. But man, oh man, like
But I could have done it myself, Chris.
anybody they have adjusting that should know. I mean, you're right; they should know.
Well, here's the kicker. I asked my neighbor. I
Okay.
said, "Did they turn your hot water heater temperature all the way up?" Yep, I had to
Maybe
turn
it's
it down.
just this one dude who is like so.
dude.
Okay, you're right. I'm not joining you where you are, so I apologize. It's hard to believe. I'm like, oh my gosh, how
It
could
is
they
not-
be doing this?
It's not hard to believe at all. Money talks, man. Money talks.
Chris, what would the alternative be?
The alternative would be that this guy does not know what he's doing and should not be the one walking door to door saying, "Hey, I'm from the gas company. You want me to go adjust your appliances?"
I think he knows exactly what he's
He
doing.
did not seem like the guy for the job.
I think he knows exactly what he's doing.
But it's
Anybody out there in big gas We got any insiders out there that confirm this?
Anybody sitting at the table
Ooh.
work for Peoples?
That's a good.
Dominion Peoples.
Oh, it's Peoples.
People.
I'll call them out. Just paid the bill.
And if you're not
Did it
listening
used to be
live, still
Dominion?
like email us or whatever. We'll touch back
Or did it
on
used
this.
to be Peoples and now it's Dominion?
here,
Wasn't it
Yeah.
ETQ?
I don't know.
Or EQ2?
'Cause we've only been in this house for 4
What was
years.
the clock that was on the,
That's DEI,
like going down?
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh,
I thought it was
ESG.
Dominion People's Gas.
ESG.
No, that's the electric supplier.
No, that's equity, social. I don't know.
I don't know.
But
I'm saying
Maybe
I'm
they'll
sticking
sell
to
you
it. man.
a monitor that can remotely control the water temperature.
they have those in Denver.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Not doing that.
That'd be cool, except that you have to like trust them to install it now. If you were to get
And
even a
then-
monitor.
Well,
Like,
do you know the story
What if
about-
that same guy comes and says, "Listen, I can solve that problem for
No,
you"?
but do you know the story
All you
about
have to do.
the thermostat? The thermostat?
What's it called? The Nest?
It's something like a Nest. If it's not a Nest, it's something like a Nest thermostat, where you sign up for this program.
They give you money?
They give you money, or they keep your bill at a lower rate, but they can control whether you turn your heat up or down.
In
your
emergency.
house.
Only in emergencies.
Only in emergencies.
They did that in Denver.
Yeah.
I remember
California.
reading about that over
Yeah,
in California.
you have to opt into it,
Yeah.
but they sell you on like, oh, this will save you money.
But
Okay.
then they have control over your utility.
So in
Yep.
the summer when it's really hot, they're like, okay, you can only put it down to like 75.
Oh, that sounds
So when the
good.
gas
That's where I
guy
have
turns
mine.
my water heater up all the way, it doesn't really sound like it's a big conspiracy, does it? It's an emergency. You need hot water.
Oh my gosh.
The only thing that I could think of giving him the benefit of the doubt,
Is you got to go full blast to make sure the line's working.
no, you got to go full blast to get the water, the tank back up to a decent temperature quickly. That's
He
the
should still
only
have
thing.
warned you. He
Yep.
absolutely should have warned you.
Yep. There we are.
Well, I think now's probably a good time. Speaking, we're talking about lawsuits. We should talk about the big lawsuit.
Okay.
Yeah. Which one?
Yeah, which one? We got East Palestine.
No,
we got-
no,
sorry.
not that.
Okay.
Something far more important than that.
It's got to be disc golf.
What, Prodigy suing Gannon Burr?
Good. Good.
Whoa, it just got real hot in here.
Why?
Well, last week he said, "Yep, I'm leaving Prodigy. I have a year left on my contract, but I'm opting out." And
Gannon Burr's the young kid,
yeah,
right?
17.
Uh-huh.
And then on Sunday of the All Stars event, it broke that Prodigy was suing him for breach of contract. And everybody's like, well, the day we finally knew would come has finally come, that disc golf has become a real pro sport because you have court injunctions. And,
Yeah.
you know, he's saying they didn't fulfill his contract and they put a cease and desist order and they're looking for punitive damages. And the whole disc golf world's all up in arms that it's a lose-lose for not Gateway, but for Prodigy. And
Wait, so Chris, do you hate Gannon?
no, he loves Prodigy.
I do, and I like Gannon
okay.
Burr, and I
Yeah.
liked he had become in his young, his 17, like one of their top headliners.
Yeah.
Like
He's top 5. I mean, he won the last major of the year. He's
yeah.
one of the top
So-
5 players last year.
And this is just I don't come down too hard on like pro athletes, whatever. Like I know it's all there's the business side of it is can get icky and detailed and all that stuff, but in my heart, I'm like, dude, you had a contract, like just finish it. And I know you can like be buy out of your contract or have your new sponsor
There's
buy
new
you out.
negotiations that can happen.
Right,
But
there's
if you-
other things, but if he
But
apparently if
aren't
there's
you against big corporations?
I'm against. Yeah, so like for example, I would not want Prodigy simply controlling everything Gannon Burr could do. Like I would feel like Gannon Burr should have an option to say, you know what, I want to back out, but then there should also be consequences. Like as far
But
as
his reason for
like,
opting out, you didn't even ask about it.
ooh, that's what I want to know. That's where I'm getting.
Nobody else cares, though, so we can talk about it later.
Oh,
Well, he said, number one, the quality of the discs, that
Is
he had-
amazing.
He asked them that the stamps were, doesn't matter. Number two, he had a $500 bonus check that they didn't give to him. Number three, that he was supposed to get 2 signature series line and discs
so
coming
he
out.
feels like they're out of contract.
That's the whole point. They're
Okay.
in breach, so he can
Breach.
leave the contract.
Okay.
And they countered with, no, there's nothing in the contract that says any. So there was like handshake agreements and verbal agreements.
Yeah, no, that's
that
icky.
wasn't written
Yeah.
down. And so nobody really knows because all we've heard is he was leaving and then you see what they filed in the lawsuit.
Wouldn't a verbal agreement hold up in court if there was a witness, though?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm serious question. I don't
But tonight, I'm also going to air a grievance.
know.
James O'Keefe getting let go from Project Veritas.
Matthew Termamond.
I don't know that.
Oh, he's the guy behind it.
I don't know that.
That's huge because I liked him. He was the one reporting in Brazil
Oh,
about what was going on down there. But anyhow, no, that's not what we're talking about. And that I don't really feel that bad for him because you're telling me he can't raise the money and
Yeah.
do it again.
He's gonna be okay.
He'll be fine. No, the long winter is over. Tonight is the first night of the first Jomez practice round.
Jomez is
I'm
back.
done watching, random disc golf events from somewhere else and, backed up, mic'd up skins games from last season. Fresh new disc golf.
Is there a new Beyond Disc Golf? Is there
There's
episode
only-
3?
Yeah, there's already episode 3.
Okay, so I have to watch
where he
episode
was
3.
making minis and stuff like that.
Okay, I gotta watch that one.
So what is this event? If Jomez
Las
is
Vegas.
covering it, is it the
First,
first event of the
20
Pro Tour?
well, technically, the 2023 season started last November with 2 Silver Series events. But this is the first actual calendar 2023 major Elite Series event.
didn't they do Vegas last year to start it off too?
Yeah, that's what they do every year.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch.
Yeah. Were you caught up from last year? See all the stuff?
I like to start fresh.
Anyhow, so those are just 2 fun little tidbits, and life's upside down. Dumpster fire. People in hospital. People in prison. Awkward conversation after awkward conversation. Drama.
Listen, I'm not sure. I'm sorry to laugh. You went into so much detail about the disc golf. And now I don't know how to be with you in your
Well, he would rather talk
dumpster
about
fire.
talk about disc golf right now than all the other stuff.
that's legit.
So hey,
Well,
yeah.
I'm not breaking any confidentiality with Gannon
Sure.
Burr. I don't know the people who run Prodigy.
Right.
I have nothing to do with the Las Vegas Classic. I am a Patreon sponsor for Jomez, so there is that. Everything else, too many details, and table's already burdened too much by my ramblings.
But I do feel for all the fact that it is too much. Because
I
you
even-
can handle a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But
Well, I got one today. I wrote a letter of recommendation for a volleyball player, and Todd got back to me because he had to deliver it, and he was like, "Well, so and so said she's failing such and such a class." Well, Bella had that professor or that teacher before, and he's known as being a great teacher, except he's not anymore. And I was like, "Oh, that triggers so much anger from last year, and I really care about this player." Nah, I'm not gonna do with that right now. Like I'm all full. I can't. I'm not gonna. I didn't go to war for my daughter. I'm not going to war for somebody else.
Yeah.
But it was like, oh yeah, I remember that bothered me a lot last year. But did have a great visit to Allegheny with Bella, and that was fun
Yeah.
and exciting, and I liked it a lot. So we'll see.
you know where that is? Crawford County.
You know what else is in Crawford County?
I do.
Yeah, Oil City.
Oil City.
Actually, no. That's Venango. Check your records.
Well, that is egg on my face.
What's Brian's update?
Busy. A lot going on. Having work done at the house. A couple different contractors there doing some different things.
At the same time.
Well, the pointing guy and the guy that's inside, we're getting sliding glass door
Cheap.
off the balcony. What?
Cheap.
No. No. An exterior door down in the basement, not cheap either. $1,700 for an exterior door.
to install it and everything.
No, to buy it. To
Oh
buy
my
the door.
Is this
Gosh.
because
And that's the
it's
cheapest
a
one I could
custom
find.
size?
No,
and it's-
well,
tell us
the-
exactly
we-
how to get through this door.
and it's one that we're not going to use a lot because it's the side door in the basement, which we don't use much. But the one we have there, it was custom built, and the door, like, you could tap on it and probably open it. It's not secure. It never has been. It's just leaks air. So it's always been something I've wanted to do, is just for security reasons.
Sure.
What's your address?
Plus your gas bill.
Right.
Yeah,
The leaky air.
right. And so I got to check my pilot light now.
I got a guy. Well, Eric does.
I don't.
He wanders
No, I
up and
don't have
down
a guy.
Eric Street.
Yeah, he's not even with the gas company.
He's an anti-environmentalist.
Just some
He's
guy.
trying to waste natural resources.
Just some guy.
I'll have to invite him over. So we've got a lot of that going on.
He's got a "How dare you" shirt on.
How dare you? All the stuff that I've been working on really is kind of coming to a head at this point. And I'm excited about it because what I'm excited about is the vision becoming reality. I was thinking about it today. You know, all of the
So much time.
the hiccups and the, you know, not being able to meet where you thought you were going to be able to meet on certain things. It's fine. It stinks in the moment, but you know, life's full of conflict, and you got to be able to navigate through it. And that's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing right now. I'm going to be in New York next week with Kono, and so there's a lot going on. So I won't be here next week, by the way. But yeah, there's a lot going on.
Like you're gone.
I'm
All-
gone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Monday. So
Stop by Sparrow's.
Sparrow's
Get a nice
Favorite
New York
New York
slice.
slice. And then the other thing I'm doing, I'm planning on doing this Saturday is digging the other trench up at the pool.
You rent a machine, right?
I am renting a machine, but that means I also have to rent a trailer and a trailer hitch because that machine is very heavy and it needs to go in a trailer. So,
Do I need any
kind of a thing.
ditches dug?
do you need a ditch dug or do you need a trailer for the day?
Neither. Dadgummit.
Yeah, too bad.
Could we do something with that at the disc golf course?
I
Dig
don't
a
know.
ravine.
You're more than welcome to use it to do it.
I'd probably rupture the gas line.
Yeah, and I'm proud of myself because I did call 811.
Look at you.
Yeah.
That's good.
They
Right.
spray.
I don't know. I haven't been up there, but they gave me between because I called Monday. They gave me between Monday and Friday that all the utilities are coming out, and then they gave it on me to March 7th to actually dig it because after that, I guess all the official things that they do go null and void. So I have to dig it before the 7th.
Somebody secretly laying lines in your yard.
Yeah.
In between now and whatever.
Well,
you do.
when they sprayed at our house, like it rained really hard for like a day and a half. It was all gone. I was like, well, I hope they remember where it was.
But then I got to get it done anyways because the pool guy that's going to come and actually plumb everything, once you reach the middle of March, end of March, he's already gone. Like he's
yeah.
already
Pool guy.
Yeah.
It's his busy season.
Start a pool company.
No.
All right.
So yeah, just a lot of activity. Ethan performed
Yep.
down at Heinz Hall this past weekend for 3 days,
Oh,
2
yeah.
days and
That was
2 nights
awesome.
and a day. Yeah, Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon. It was an amazing show. The music of John Williams, who did
It's a nice
Star
building.
Wars. Beautiful building, and to see him up there. I mean, even though I couldn't hear him or anything,
Him specifically. You
him
could hear
specifically,
them.
right? Oh, yeah. I mean, that symphony's amazing. It was so surreal to see him in Heinz Hall,
Yeah, it's so cool.
performing to over 2,000 people.
Is it Are we supposed to? Is it now Acrisure Hall?
No, it's still Heinz.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Those naming rights have not been bought. No.
That's funny. Chris bringing jokes. You give him a little nap,
No,
Yeah,
I
right?
feel a little peppy.
and he is well equipped to be entertaining in the podcast, just as we hope that all of the children are well equipped to become adjusted adults as they enter their life. And we've been going over in episodes 1 and 2 of this series 40 assets that children need before they're 12 to be well-adjusted adults in our world. And we went over, like we said, 1 through 20, which were external assets, I believe is how they're defined as such. And then starting tonight, we're going over the internal assets. And what we want to do is look at it and just sort of be conversational around the table and say, hey, did you get that? Have you been able to give that to your kids? And have you been able to give that to somebody else's kids? And in general, are kids today getting it? Is the way I would put it. The first one is achievement motivation. Child is encouraged to remain curious and demonstrates an interest in doing well at school.
And this first set is all. There's 5 of them that are all this commitment to learning subcategory.
It's funny because it isn't commitment to education.
Yeah, just
not commitment to
lifelong,
school.
like lifelong learning.
It's a commitment to
Yeah.
to learning.
That's something.
Although but the first line has school in it. The first one.
It does.
That is true.
And doing well at school.
So does the second.
So does the fourth.
All 5.
Nope. 3 and 5 done.
I'm the
But the third one's called homework.
25 does. Oh, outside of school, but it still has the word school.
but still school.
All right. Well,
This
let's
has
use
been
school as
episode
an
191 entitled "Shut Up, Jay" and everything else.
No.
We'll use school as an umbrella term for lifelong learning.
I prefer learning.
Well, and I might even add like a little edit to this.
Oh,
So,
okay.
because of 21. I'll read 21.
I just read.
I'm sorry.
21.
Well, I mean, like, let me read the first part of it. Child is encouraged to remain curious.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
I got that one.
You did?
Yeah, like to be curious about stuff and, like tinker with things and, that kind of thing. But then,
That's a great question.
and demonstrates an interest in doing well at school. Nope.
I don't know that I was ever encouraged to be curious. I mean, again, I'm the youngest of 5. It's kind of like, stay busy, kid, or don't. Like, I don't know. I mean, but I was given the opportunity to play the drums and
Yeah, and like
scouts
that. And we did we did scouts. We did Pinewood Derby. And I remember my dad we did
Yeah.
Pinewood Derby together and how things work. And
I like that it says remain curious.
Yeah.
You're assuming. Were they initially curious?
Right. Right. Because are some people just not born curious? I don't know. Like, I feel like as humans, we're meant to be curious, but
I'm curious, like always. That's just
Yeah.
who I am.
I had a teacher in art school, and I mean it's a well-known phrase or saying, but he said the whole world is my teacher, and that always stuck out to me because it helped me to realize, yeah, there's even if I'm not in school, there are things to learn anywhere in any situation. The world is filled with lessons, and so that was one of those things.
And foolish to think it only happens in school.
Correct, right.
We turn our losses into lessons.
Rise above your raisin. I don't know. Let's just
there
start.
it is.
Let's just start.
It's classic Rachel talk right there.
But no, and that's something that we've encouraged both of our kids to, like I just repeated that to them. The whole world is your teacher, and always be on the lookout, and always not even just be reactively looking for what you can learn, but
I agree
proactive.
wholeheartedly. And like I've taught my kids long before they could comprehend it, and I'm not sure they do yet. And it was always, learn to learn, not to get a grade. Don't learn just to get a grade, because
Right,
then you've
right.
wasted time.
Right.
Like
It's just
you
like
know,
memorizing a test answer.
Right.
And then you forget it.
Right.
Right.
And I mean, I figured it out my sophomore year of college, how to do that, to learn for the sake of learning. Do I understand the topic? Do I understand what they're trying to do? Whether or not I get it right on the test or not is irrelevant.
Right.
And so that would be good for that. 22.
Learning engagement. Child is enthused about learning and enjoys going to school. I can't even say it with a straight face. That was not me.
I mean, would you say you're supposed to have 27 of these to be well adjusted?
That's what. we've
That's the number.
mentioned, yeah.
I mean, how many kids you know? Enthused about learning? I mean, Abby, a little bit
Yeah.
for a while.
Well,
I
still see Ethan. Being,
yeah, actually I would, and my kids split this one down the middle.
Oh, sure.
Like Ben, super enthused about. I mean, and obviously it depends on probably on the subject area, right?
Ben's excited to teach Maggie math.
Right? He is all in. Like, he does math for fun and is just enthused about those kind of things. And he's been enthused about, other like drama and music and other things he's been involved in. Lily, not so much. She's enthused about her own things. Like, she has her own little like her pastimes and her leisure activities. But school,
Not so much.
I wouldn't say enthused.
Well, and to be fair, we had mentioned this in the previous episodes. Like this, the subtext at the top of this is ages 5
Up to
through
12.
9.
Right. 9 to, yeah.
But
She wasn't excited then either.
yeah, like
not so much.
Yeah, I feel like I was never an academic. Like I always wanted to go the vocational, hands-on apprenticeship route.
Right.
Because that's the way I like to learn. That's the way I learned, and that's the way I got good at stuff. So, I was never really enthused about school.
23, homework. With appropriate parental support, child completes assigned homework. As if that even exists anymore.
Lex and Ethan do it all the time. Like he always comes to her with math.
Really?
And like I was thinking, like if Lex wasn't around, I'm sorry, kid, I'm not going to be able to help you with math.
Still, though?
Right. They did it last night. They sat.
Since COVID, Bella and Joe never had a piece of homework in the house.
Yeah. No. Whatever math he's in right now, I don't even know what math he's
Right.
in. But yeah, they do it on a regular basis.
Crazy. I mean, I don't
That's
know
awesome.
of anybody doing homework anymore.
Yeah.
I know lots of kids who don't turn assignments in. Again, that's high school level. But I mean, I was just parental support. I mean, I completed assigned homework because I was deathly afraid of not getting the good grade. Like,
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't not turn homework in.
Speaking of elementary kids, since that's what this is.
And your expertise.
No. Well, I was going to ask you guys a question, actually. Any of your kids, like, just fight doing homework?
No, for us, we were pretty good as parents to do the whole as soon as you get home, do your homework. Sit down, do your homework.
Yeah.
I mean, even Trey, having him do his homework in kindergarten and whatever else. You talk about when am I going to need to know this?
There was never like a.
Pushback, sure,
Yeah,
but
okay,
my point is they just knew it. Like we were firm on that
Right.
from jump. So it always got done.
Because that's another, and I'm throwing her under the bus tonight, but like that was another like struggle, even in elementary school, like getting her to like sit
Yeah.
down and focus and have it like not be a battle that made our evenings
Yeah.
way less
Sure.
enjoyable,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ethan had a lot of trouble. He procrastinated a lot with math and English for a while. But over the past year, like he's really matured a lot and he understands our standard to you can do all the things you want to do as long as you keep everything in balance, and having those grades, that's the first, like you can do the musical, you can do all these other things, but you got to keep your grades up in order to do them. And, he's taken all of that and put it together. But yeah, there was a time where he fought that.
I think in our world today, 23 is huge because I know a lot of teachers and there's not a lot of parental support and there's a lot
Yeah.
of kids not doing
Right.
assigned work. I won't even say homework.
Right.
And it's just like, what are you going to do? And then the administration comes down on the teachers.
Yeah.
Like, well, did you, have you had communication with the parents? Yeah, I've emailed them. I've called them. They don't
Yep.
return my phone calls. They don't, whatever. So
It is rampant. Yeah.
Bonding to school. Child is encouraged to have and feels a sense of belonging at school.
I know now. This is probably bringing it in more as a like from a parental standpoint, as far as encouraged to. But I will say it from a teacher's standpoint, from a school atmosphere. I know our school is big on that. Like we want kids to know that it's a safe place, it's a welcoming place. They have a place at our school. I guess I can't speak for.
my kids felt it. My kids
Yeah.
experienced it. I think Penn Hills does a good job of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Which, let's talk about that for a second, because Penn Hills always gets such a bad rap, and I really feel with what you're saying, Jay, that they do a great job of, again, Ethan went to a wrestling match. He went to support his friend in her swim meet, and there are a ton of opportunities within Penn Hills. There's a some kind of a breakfast tomorrow that Lex and Abby and I are going to. It's like, I don't know, an award thing, but like it is nice to have those things and to be able to take advantage of them, because that does create that sense of community belonging within that school.
Yeah, I think any school, especially schools like McKeesport, Penn Hills, that do struggle socioeconomically, for lack of a better term, when those that struggles needs and their voice gets louder than the kids who want to achieve, that's when you get into trouble.
Right.
But I think they've fought that off pretty hard.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do in certain circumstances. Some kids just have so many, so few of these.
Right.
that
Right.
They ain't even thinking about 24.
Right.
But I think for the most part in our world today, we still value kids enough to push them and make them feel like they matter in elementary school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Would you guys say, since we're looking at that and like what kids basically, what they come to school with, how much is on their plate, that they can even feel a bonding developing at school, would you say that the ones that we've been going over in the past couple episodes in this series, the external assets are those leading up to these internal assets? Like, do you should we be reading it that way, or is
No, they're all independent.
okay? All right.
But what I would say is it's interesting as we look at this to think of the emotional needs that are present in each of these. You know, at least in the first 4 that we've talked about tonight, you know, there's a big sense of belonging,
Support.
security, you know, there's encouragement. I mean, it's all of the emotional needs getting wrapped into this. Minus maybe, I mean, affection to some degree. You know, you're being welcomed and whatnot. So I think it's always good to look at the building blocks for what matters to a kid's development. Reading for pleasure. Child listens to, isn't that interesting? Listens to and or reads books outside of school daily.
And we're not talking about the book of TikTok or the book of Instagram or whatever, right? We're talking about books.
Yeah, I was never big on reading. My mom read to me when I was a kid,
Right.
for sure.
Till you were
High school.
17.
No, I couldn't remember where it got cut off. But Amy's big on reading to Maggie,
Yeah.
and so am I. So
Yeah. I read like crazy. My kids read like crazy. That's a great thing for us.
My kids read like crazy. I don't think they read like crazy now.
Yeah.
Like Bella can read a book in like a day and a half. It's nothing to her, but she
Right.
doesn't do it that much.
Right.
But again, for the formative years that we're talking about, I don't know. I feel like that's like a baseline for a parent.
Go,
Like if
dog,
you're
go.
not encouraging
Right.
your kids to read,
Right.
what are you doing? You know,
Right.
if you're not reading to your kids and you're
Right.
not encouraging your kids to read, I think any parent does that.
I don't know.
I disagree.
I know.
I mean,
from
I
knowing
agree.
I was gonna say, knowing from Chris's stories of
Yeah.
like kids showing up in kindergarten and they don't know their ABCs yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's
I get that it doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
I'm saying
Yeah,
any
but-
parent that's trying.
But I mean, like, but still, like, it's like, yeah, and I get what you're saying, Jay, but it's still it's still alarming to me that like there's kids that like they weren't even sat in front of Sesame Street. Like that kid has never seen Sesame Street.
Right, because
You
you
know.
vicariously will at least know.
At least know ABC 1, 2, 3. You know, like, you know what I mean? Like that's crazy to me.
Well, and I think especially now in this
Yep.
age we live in, like I was saying, TikTok, like it's so easy for a parent just to shove a device into a 2-year-old's hands, you know, where at any other point in history, you're spending actual time with them and probably doing some kind
Or
of
throwing books at them. You may not be reading to them, but you're like, here. Like I remember going on family vacations. Once again, that goes back to some of the external things that we had that kind of time. We had a box of comic books that only came out for vacation.
that's a good
Because
idea.
otherwise you get bored with them. And so like you'd be so excited.
Oh, yeah,
They
yeah.
were specific vacation because what'd you do in the car?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, right.
So you
Yeah.
had to read. Now, you're on your phone.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. Well, even with things like everything is on demand now. You know, Adam Carolla talks about like when he was a kid back in, 70s, he had to wait till Christmas to watch The Grinch,
Oh yeah.
you know.
And you knew when it was on because
And he
you
didn't
looked
ha-
at
and
the
he
TV
couldn't
guide.
record, he couldn't record it either.
Nope.
When it was on,
Charlie
you had
Brown
to be there to
Christmas.
watch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it just made it that much more exciting.
Yep.
Now we can watch whatever we want whenever we want.
10 versions of it.
Yeah.
So, moving on from commitment to learning to positive values.
caring. Parents help child grow in empathy, understanding, and helping others.
Ooh.
I had that a lot as a kid, I will say.
Yeah, I had that.
My parents were big on how you treat others and how do you think that made so and so feel and that sort of thing.
Something like to this day, my dad. We went to a baseball game when I was like young, like in this age group, and I remember there was people around us that were booing the other team, and my dad said, "We don't boo the other team.
Right.
What did your dad say?
We don't
We
boo
don't
the other. We don't boo the other
the
team."
other team.
But that stuck with me because he told me that because they're trying hard and you wouldn't want to be booed at or and that so that was kind of instilled in me from a young age.
Is it
doesn't
happening
that-
now?
And that's a beautiful, a great, specific moment about, okay, we don't boo the other team at sporting events. But it also has positive repercussions to here, that sort of resonates in your child brain of, well, that's not how we treat people.
Right.
Yeah. And that,
It's very tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that happening now? Do you have empathy for
throat's just
Brian,
dry.
who's choking to death
Just
on
my
nothing?
throat just went completely
And
dry.
Eric, hold on, let's go backwards one. Can
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
talk about our boy Patton?
Yeah. Patton's at the table tonight. Thank you for joining us here, buddy.
Hey, Patton.
The only one who encouraged me to read when I was in elementary school was a tutor I had named Mr. Barry. My first ever book was A Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I've heard that's a
Diary of
good
a
series.
Wimpy Kid was great.
my,
Well, the
Ben
movies.
loved,
I didn't read the books. Come on.
Ben loved all those books.
No, those were good. The good little movies.
He
I
continues
saw,
to
I saw
say,
one or two of them.
he continues to say, by the time I finished it, the movie came out and I had no idea it was being made. And he bought me and my dad tickets to go see it as a reward for finishing my first book. That's awesome.
Hey,
that's
let's give it up,
amazing.
Mr.
Mr.
Barry.
Barry.
Mr. Barry, right
Killing
there.
it,
Big
man.
fan of
That's-
Mr. Barry.
That's solid.
And-
That's solid right there.
That'd be one of those things you were talking about. Like, when's the last time you called up one of your teachers?
Patton, you need to reach out to Mr.
Yeah.
Barry.
Yes. Yes.
out of the blue.
Yeah. I'm going to clip this for you. You can
And
send
then
it
you
to him.
send it to Mr. Barry.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr.
I'm
Barry.
going to clip it.
Good job.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
It's great.
Thanks for sharing that, man.
So I think it's happening today. I mean, as much as before, no, because as a society, we're devolving. This is why we're here. We talk about how numb people are going, or how distracted people are, unintentional people are, and so I think maybe in a bygone era, people had that more of a understanding. But I think I do think it still happens.
Well, of course, it still happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we've just become so apathetic.
I think not as much.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Been to the student drop off at the elementary school. I mean, what are we modeling before?
Yes.
Does anybody else matter?
No, not there. Not even the teachers standing in the middle of the traffic. Not even the kids walking across.
Nobody's safe.
Nope.
Wow.
No, that's pretty
You're
brutal.
not looking out for anybody else there. You're not seeking understanding. You're not helping anybody. Rah.
It's so easy. We talk about like how it's so easy to not be empathetic on social media. In our cars, I guess even in a line at school, but like in our cars is another time where it's like so easy. We're behind glass and behind the
that
wheel.
little pod, we think we're invincible in that
Yes.
little pod. We
That's
think,
been one of my greatest, I think, emotional developments I've had in the last 10 years is like not getting angry in the car. Like I notice everything, and Rachel even gets a little bit odd. I'm like, oh, look at this guy. Look at this guy's coming up here. She's like, you don't have to commentate on everybody else on the road, but I don't get angry. You know,
Yeah.
like somebody even cuts me off. I'm like, oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you go nuts.
yeah,
Yeah.
the
that's very much decreased in me. And, some of it was driving all those years of Tyler, but part of it is, wow, this world is nuts. And Tyler Mountain Water, when I delivered water. But like the reality that, one bad interaction can just create, like, you just never know.
A real bad day.
Yeah. So
A real bad day.
I've calmed down a bit. Equality and social justice.
Which is interesting because that is certainly some buzzwords in our world today, but then read what it says.
Parents encourage child to be concerned about rules and being fair to everyone.
It's not what I immediately thought of.
No. And it's one of those things where I think the term has been so
Co-opted. Bastardized.
Magnified.
right.
What are we looking at?
Politicized.
What word?
Social justice.
Emphasis.
Like it's a word that's tossed around so much now that,
No, but I mean in a general term,
Yeah, be
everyone
concerned about rules
deserves
and be fair to
justice.
everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's. I'm going to almost contradict myself because I don't think the last one is happening, empathy, understanding, and helping. But I do think, fairness is still kind of thrown out there, and I have to put my coaching experiences aside because that's high school. But on the one hand, our kids learning, hey, you matter and everybody else doesn't.
Yeah, I almost get the feeling, and it's funny, we all have our own experiences, obviously, but like when we were reading the last one about caring, I was of the impression, like, oh, but I see that all the time in school. Like, I think that's happening. And this one, I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know that these things, these snippets of things I observe or hear, there's a lot of. And maybe it's just easy for an elementary kid to be focused
incidental.
on themselves.
Right.
Like they're like
What about their parents?
Right. Well, I don't know. So I don't want to blame the parents because the kid is self-centered. But like there is a lot of, well, I didn't get this, or I should have, I don't have a great example, but like there is a lot of me talk.
Is it fair to say that in our world today, there is great value and emphasis putting on the topic of justice and equality and equity externally? The demand for others to be more equitable, the demand for others to treat other people with, justice and that, but the absence of it internally. In other words, everybody else needs to be more equitable. What about you? Well, no, my kid matters.
Well, we kind of talked about this. We're not going to talk about it right now, but we talked about this before the show with your experience at the college tour.
Oh, well, sure. Yeah, that was a little silly.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying is that it's a hot topic issue, and we value it, but we don't look in the mirror.
Right, right.
We
There's
collectively
there's definitely
hypocrisy to
very
it.
much, yeah.
Yeah. Integrity. Parents help child develop her or his own sense of right and wrong behavior.
That sounds like your dad and the booing too. Again, Eric, like that's a great example of integrity.
I think this is also less so than it used to be because, again, I think that parents will give that device and say, whatever this device tells you.
This is the new right and wrong.
Right. And I mean,
Or even they don't say that, but
they're going to learn
let you
from
spend
it.
5 times
that's
that.
what I'm saying. Like they're
Right.
not going to necessarily
Functionally saying that.
specifically say that, but that's what they're doing.
Can you imagine, Mom? I was thinking of cheating on my test. Well, honey, what does TikTok say?
Ask ChatGPT.
But see, I'll tell you what, I don't. This is maybe telling of where our world is today, because when I read it, it says parents help child develop her or his own sense of right and wrong, and I read it as in,
Your own truth.
yep, they get to determine what is right and what is wrong, not their own sense of that which
a
is clearly
specific right or-
right.
what is
yeah.
right and wrong.
Right. And that's also
Because I
very
think it's
true.
much more the first one.
Yeah.
That the kids are told to believe in your truth,
Find your truth.
and that there is
Yep.
no objective truth. That is, I think, a very dangerous thing in our world today, because it's slippery in regards to emotional needs and whatnot. Because if I say, "Hey, Brian, when you said that, it really made me feel scared and took away from my sense of security," and you go, "Well, that wasn't my intention."
Mm-hmm.
Well, is it my truth that I felt that? It gets so weird. But it's
Right.
like if I'm unless I'm being manipulative, well, no, that's honestly how I felt. It's not my truth; it's my feeling. But people say, "Well, that's my truth," because it gives it more validity.
Right. Right.
So I don't know. It gets very slippery.
Yeah, it does.
I'm gonna say that in this study, though, they're intending it just the word integrity.
Oh, it's right and wrong. It's not your right.
Right,
And wrong.
it's not your right
No,
and
no,
wrong.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's a telling sign of our world today that I
Right.
read it
Yeah.
as their own sense of right and wrong.
Right.
Honesty. Parents encourage a child's development in recognizing and telling the truth.
That kind of ties into what we were just talking about. If
what truth?
if we live in a society that truth is not objective, then anybody can say anything they want, and it's that truth. But
In general.
right. But I mean, I think that
For the
there's
most part.
a general sense of pushing a kid towards things that are right. In like parents are going to say, "Don't murder." Hey,
Oh, I hope
don't
so.
don't go out and kill somebody.
What did they do to you, though?
It's your truth if you want to do it.
No, I think honesty, I think that's still a value in our society today. And it certainly is a crucial building block.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think schools, even if the parents aren't intentionally, pushing the kid to that at home, there still is that element in school where let's not cheat on our tests. Let's, not take from somebody else.
Don't use ChatGPT to write a paper for you.
Yeah. Or an apology
Yes.
on a campus.
And like so many of these, I mean, and it doesn't say it in this sentence about honesty. It just says, encouraging the child's development to recognize and tell the truth. But a big reason for that, like these others, is that it affects other people around you. Like I don't know. I think that from my school perspective has become a much bigger focus over the years of rather than the rule is we tell the truth. It's more of here's why it's important to tell the truth. Like here's how it affects your teacher and your classmates if you are fibbing about something or whatever. There's more of like a help the child understand the situation, and this is why the truth is important, as opposed to it just being like a rule that we don't. And it doesn't have to just be honesty; it could be any rule. But like, yeah, that's all.
I wonder where this fits in, and so I will say it, and we will talk about it. With our children, if there was ever a discrepancy, if a teacher said this or a coach said that, or another kid said that our Joe or Bella said or did this, like the last thing we would do is believe our own children. Like we were like, you had to prove for us
right.
that you were telling the truth. Like, I have so many parents who are like, my son would never. And I'm like, oh yeah, they did like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like it's sort of like the last person you believe is your own child. Now, does that like teach integrity, or is that like, do you know what I mean? Like, and once they did prove their thing, we're going to go to bat for you 100,
Right.
All the way, the way. But it's like, look, the truth matters enough. We're not going to believe you until you prove us the truth.
Right.
Because I think maybe I'm selling it right, but I mean, this happened with the last drama involving Joe, where Rachel, I had to talk her off a ledge from stabbing somebody. We sat in the living room and Rachel said, look me in the eye and tell me when I haven't known any, is this woman have any reason to say this about you? And I was like, well, that's a good point. I mean, I didn't even think about that, because I thought I had it under, control. So we still do it. But yeah, so is that enforcing integrity? Is that showing the value of it? Or is that just not believing in your child? Maybe both.
I think it's a good testing, and sometimes in life you have to test things and people even when you want to go all in and believe them, and you need third party verification and really to collect a case in order to accentuate that trust and belief in that person.
Well, let's be honest, pun intended. Like,
did you really intend it?
That was well played. If it was
well played.
Thank you,
That was
guys.
good.
I appreciate that. We're all, and especially kids, but we're all like programmed to kind of avoid getting in trouble for
Oh,
things.
sure, you round off the truth.
Right? So like I think it's a healthy thing for you to realize that your kid, even though you love them, you trust them, you still need to interrogate a little bit, dig a little deeper if you want to get the whole truth in a certain situation, especially one like we're talking about, like with a teacher or a coach, where it's like, okay, the adult says one thing and the kid is saying another. Like, we need to, before we just say, well, that's a bad, that adult, I'm going to give him a piece of my
Right.
mind. Like, we need to dig.
Go ahead.
Well, I want to keep this conversation going, but I was reading ahead to number 30. Responsibility, I believe, plays a lot into this. It says parents encourage child to accept and take responsibility for her or his actions at school and at home.
Right. It's a good transition to that.
Well, I think, but it goes hand in hand
Right.
though. Like, it's teaching your kid to be honest and like, say like, yeah, I did something wrong or whatever, or be truthful and about the truth of like if it was the teacher or you know what I mean? Because
Right.
because when I grew up, like, gosh, it was always the teacher. The teacher was right.
Oh, sure.
I could have been right, and the teacher was right.
Yeah, the teacher smacked me across the face. What did you say?
right.
Whereas, the teacher made me turn my homework in and I've been stressed out. Like, that's literally a conversation that happens in school now, that you're putting too much on my kid and you're giving them anxiety. Where back in the day it was, I'm going to get beat at school by a teacher if I mouth off. That caused me anxiety and I didn't do anything wrong.
And then
I
I
was
get beat at home.
Right. But I want to go back to my point, and now as it applies to both honesty and responsibility. I wonder if as a parent, it's really born out of Rachel and my emotional needs, because she has a very high need for security. So She wants to know what is the truth before she goes into any battle.
Sure.
She doesn't want to
Yeah.
go in with flimsy truth. So because she values security so much,
Yeah.
she's going to doubt her own kid to get down to the real root of what happened. You know,
That's interesting.
for me, it's more a matter of respect, and I don't want to look like an idiot.
Right.
I'm not going to
Right.
go out there and back you and
Yeah.
then be made to look like a fool. And so, whereas, for other parents who will, okay, so what is a parent who just blindly believes their kids? Maybe it's a sense of belonging that I want my kid to love me no matter what. I
Right.
want to look like a good parent no
Right.
matter what.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good point.
How it's manifesting
Yeah.
differently in each individual parent.
Man, there's a lot there.
There's a lot in everything.
And there's a lot, we say it's easy to care for someone else the way that, you would. So if you have a high need for respect, it's easy to
Conversely, the same person,
Yeah.
whereas I have a high need for respect, I don't want to look like a fool. They may have a high need for respect. And so you're going to respect my son. And I'm going to believe him no matter what.
Oh, that's a good point. That's not what I was going to say, but that is good. Yeah, no,
I
that's
thought that was
good.
brilliant that you brought that up.
Well, thank you. No, but it's brilliant that you brought it up. Mine was that the parent, like yourself, with a high need for respect, might also turn that around to the teacher or the coach, whoever we're talking about, and say, well, how do we show them respect? Like, you need to saying to your kid, well, you need to respect the authority
you'll
figure.
teach respect since you value it so much.
I just wonder if you're sort of reflecting that in the way that you are
You might, I guess.
approaching a situation.
I don't think so initially, but the more I think about it, maybe. I think they'd be more reactive to, how dare that coach,
Okay.
disrespect our family by saying that you did this. But I could be wrong.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, there's only one left for tonight. Number 31, self-regulation. Parents encourage child's growth in regulating his or her own emotions and behaviors and in understanding the importance of healthy habits and choices. That's thick.
Yeah. I think the check-ins are very important. And I don't know how often they happen. But they're very important to be able to see where that kid's heart is. Like I always say, I for the people I love and, care about, I try to go after people's hearts. Where are you at? What's going on? How can I help you bring a balance to what's going on? So I don't know how often people do that by and large, though. And where else would that happen? I mean, is that happening in schools? Is that happening in friend groups?
Regulating his or her own emotions.
I don't feel like
That's the first part.
anybody gets that. Like just thinking about, I didn't get it when I was growing up. And,
No, I was thinking the same thing about me.
Yeah. And I don't think,
Shut up or I'll give you something to cry about.
yeah.
That's not really regulating an emotion.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
if you're going to regulate emotion, then you have to know about emotional needs.
Right.
And how many people know about emotional needs?
Now, I won't say my parents weren't empathetic, but
Sure, right.
I don't think there was an emphasis on how do you handle your emotions.
Right.
And I think, like Amy and I, for example, I think we've done a lot better than the previous generation at that. And maybe a lot of parents do now. I don't know. But there's definitely been an emphasis on, like, okay, if you're angry, how do you deal with that? Like, how do we?
Right.
Well, here they're interchanging, if we want to go back a few podcasts, feelings with
I
emotions.
was just thinking about that.
Yeah, but I said,
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
because if you're not aware of your emotions, you'll be manipulated by your feelings. And I think
Yeah.
we were all taught to regulate our feelings. Don't be all angry. Don't be sad. That kind
Is
of
that
stuff.
being taught how to regulate them, though?
No,
or
it's
is
being
that
told to.
right? Like,
But I mean, in
yeah.
essence, it's being taught to. Like, you can't spaz out in class, Jimmy.
Well,
You
right.
can't throw a temper tantrum every time your teacher tells you you're wrong.
Well, even today, I won't say which grandparent it was, but they'll say, "Oh, Maggie, don't cry," and I'm like,
Oh, there's nothing
Right.
better.
"She can cry."
Yeah.
Like and where Amy and I are good about, like, "Oh no, let her cry."
Yeah. That's a
Let
great
her
example.
Let
of
her
what,
sit in that feeling, that
Yeah.
emotion.
right. Like, live it out for a minute.
Yeah.
Like,
don't avoid it and shove it under the
right.
rug.
Cry for a minute. Let's talk about why you were sad. Let's talk about how you could, do such and such next time to whatever.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that that's not happening a lot.
Yeah.
But the second part,
Well, hang on, because I do want to. I do want to emphasize on that, like, because this is like kind of like the 101 emotional need, where grandparent says, "Oh, don't cry," and we say, "No, cry, live in that emotion," and then join them in saying, "Man, your toe must feel awful for stubbing it on the dining room wall.
That's
I'm
one of the
so
worst
sorry."
things ever.
Right. So like, and then like Maggie can live in that feeling and like, oh, they do care.
And
Right,
in,
yeah.
in that
Yeah.
in that she finds safety.
Right.
She finds validation. And by not doing that properly, don't cry. Okay, well, I'm just going to repress. What else am I going to repress in my life?
Right.
What else am I going to
Right.
shove down?
And not tell you.
no, that's you're
Yeah.
right. And that's the building block of what you said, of what we're doing.
Yeah.
The second part is the more, I don't want to say, we can debate more about it. Are they encouraging child's growth in regulating behaviors and understanding the importance of healthy habits and choices? I mean, Brian's already on the board and we're all in agreement. Throwing a screen in front of a kid is not encouraging good habits,
throwing a screen.
like a phone, a tablet.
Oh
something to
yeah,
watch.
yeah,
Watch
yeah.
this. Watch this.
Gotcha.
Stay busy.
Like
stay
all
busy.
of a sudden, I'm seeing a screen door. I'm sorry.
You're like, how
You
much
got
those
doors
cost?
on your brain.
I'll tell you how much they cost. We price them out too.
I got one of them screen doors in my garage right now. I'll throw it in front of my kid.
And if you had the habit of putting a hammer to a nail, you could have that thing installed for free. So, healthy habits. Let's talk about eating. No.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Exercise.
Not
No.
really.
Nope. Nope.
Moderating your media
Intake.
intake. No.
Nope.
Nar.
Obsessing over television and shows. Gosh, we're screwed.
Relationships. Like
Relationships. No. Oh, this is great.
yeah. And that's the podcast.
That's great. I don't see it. I just don't. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, do I see it every once in a while? Like Kim Clemens sat here at the table with us a couple weeks ago, woke her kids out of a dead sleep, unplanned, and they went hiking.
Yeah.
Okay, she's doing it.
Yeah. Don't hear many people doing that.
Not many.
No.
Not many.
That one guy on Twitter that we talk about.
Tyler,
Yeah. He's doing it.
he's doing it.
I don't see a lot of other people doing it.
No.
Yeah.
Healthy habits and choices. Yeah, that's tough.
There's a big opportunity to improve there, world.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that's what it should be. It should be an opportunity. We can do better.
We can do better.
Do
Speaking
better.
of do
Aw,
better,
Throwback.
Oh, we're not really speaking of it.
No, but you could do this ending better.
And that is how we're going to end episode 191. Please make sure, if you can, give us a like or follow on social media and visit us at lunchtimeinrome.com. While there, you can take our relational needs questionnaire. As always, thanks for joining us at the table for Lunchtime in Rome.
See you next week, except for you, Brian.
Bye for 2 weeks.
bye.